track. Woo. Unlearned Unlimited. What? Unlearned Unlimited.
Welcome to the Unlearned Unlimited Podcast. My name is Dr. Sito, Narcisse, and my co-host
Tatiana, Echevarria.
We got another banger for you, Tatiana.
I am so excited because we have someone special in studio.
We got Mr. Malik Ray from Leading Now.
Cue the applause.
Malik, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Sito and Tatiana. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Listen, super excited that you're here. Super excited,
In
man.
the studio.
I know we had a previous conversation with you, which was really cool about all the big work that was going on around the country. And you came to grace us with your presence in the house.
Listen, the virtual was, it was good. And I think after that, I was like, yeah, we have to keep this up. We didn't have enough time to cover things. And I knew that the chemistry would be so much more, enigmatic in person. So I'm just excited to be here and continue that talk with y'all.
Yeah, well.
Can I say y'all?
Yeah.
Say whatever you want, man.
We're feeling real Southern in here.
Well, listen, so let's remind the crew a little bit, Tatiana, about Malik, right? So, Malik's a part of Leading Now.
Yes.
Which is an organization that works with superintendents across the entire United States of America. I think you got like 200 something plus. I don't know what the number
230
is.
superintendents across 40 states.
Shout out to Malik knowing the exact number. Can we talk about that?
Okay. I know you work with people. Shout out to a woman named Caitlin Sullivan. She's part of your team and all the whole crew out there doing some great work with supporting education across the country. Super excited about that. We also know you're a Southern guy, right? And when I say Southern, like college and ATL, Morehouse. You're one of the Morehouse brothers, doing good. And then also I think you're in the grad stuff at UGA, right?
Yep. So future MBA from UGA, Morehouse man at heart. Originally from Philly though, born and raised there.
You're a Philly dude. That's right.
What a bummer.
Wow, here we are.
Well, because I do love you and we have that connection. We know that.
We doing good.
But then, I'm a Dallas Cowboys girl, and then you're a Philly guy, so there's just a little bit of conflict, but it's fine. We'll get over that.
Well, you know how those relationships.
Football, but I heard we tore y'all up last week.
You hear that?
Wow.
I'm not an aficionado, but I saw that come across my
We're coming in hot, huh?
Yeah.
And there's no barriers between you two, so y'all going to need for y'all on the screen to be polite to each other.
We've already cleared. Okay.
So happy you're here. So excited to chat with you again and to delve deeper into like your personal story, but also continue to talk about the amazing work that you guys are doing at Leading Now. So
we want to dive right in. And just kind of continue the conversation we had from the first time. I know we were in a space where we're going to talk more around things around the Leading Now organization work, talk a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing around the country to try to help elevate education for kids in the community, and also like just supporting to try to get things done. As we always say, our goal all the time is to talk about what's unlearned and also unlimited. So, it's always a clash between education and culture. And, like me and Tatiana do we always want to get the real truth from you, right? So, not what people, the perceptions, but what the real mechanics and the architect of things happen. And we know you're part of organizations that are trying to do what the right thing in education is. So I don't know where you want to dive in, Tatiana.
Let's start with some unlearning.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Your personal journey. You were a former teacher. And then you went into like professional event stuff. And then now you're at Leading Now.
Yes.
Okay. So you've kind of crossed some different sectors here, right? What was unlearning? What was that experience of you that you had to unlearn to kind of have this pivot in your career?
Yes. Let me see if I can box this response.
Yeah.
With a few of the things that I've heard. Question is, what have I had to unlearn over my experience? What I've had to unlearn, I think, lends itself to where you started, Sito, which is, what did you say? The intersection between something and culture.
Education and
culture. Yeah.
The intersection between education and culture. I think if I had to write a thesis statement about where I find myself today, I think it would be that those two things are not mutually exclusive, right? And that is why podcasts like this are important, right? Because there's a lot of things happening in the ivory tower, but governed and paid for and supported by the community, local stakeholders, right? And so there's a sort of gap bridging that we need to do to put communities back in control of their neighborhoods. We pay taxes into these things. These are our children, our school buildings. And I believe that the way, or one way, to help bridge that gap is helping clarify some of these sort of misunderstandings, right? What federal legislation, what does that really mean for local impact, right? Where does my child sit amongst other second graders across the country? How much money am I paying in taxes, and how is that impacting the education that my child receives? In where I live, in Atlanta, is segregation the right word?
I think that's appropriate to use.
Cool. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, and mostly that's
we see that across all states.
Yeah.
See it here locally in Jacksonville.
So let's just call it a thing, right? And that was my experience as a second grade teacher in Metro Atlanta. My kids on the West Side did not have access to the same opportunities, textbooks, computers, resources, field trips, teachers. Then the kids at Sarah Smith in the Buckhead side of the city. And the reason for that had nothing more to do with the hand that life had dealt them. They couldn't control where they were born, what school they were zoned for. They can't control that they were born at all. Why the heck is there such disparity between the education that they receive? If the job here is to push all students out to be successful, productive members of society. All right, I'm already on my soapbox. Anyway, context. I taught second grade, 5 years, Teach for America, probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done. That was born out of me thinking after college I was going to take the traditional route. I was going to go work for IBM because I went to Morehouse Business, and
he's going to make that money.
I'm going to get this bread.
He said, I went to Morehouse and I was going to be rich.
Brand. Let's do what the business majors do and get this money. Well,
you know, Morehouse is expensive. Even though it's a great school. Great school, but it's expensive.
In the midst of my pain, my child still better go there. You know what I mean? Right. My daughter still better go to school.
But it's a great school.
Yes,
I'm gonna send my brother to that school.
Changed my life. Around the time I was graduating, Trayvon Martin had died, and I was starting to realize that the kids who Morehouse is in the hood, like a lot of HBCUs are, because they wouldn't sell us land elsewhere. I started to look around.
Don't start speaking the truth early in the show. Don't start speaking.
I started to look around, and the kids, they were in the neighborhood. You go to the gas station, you see children.
Yeah.
Once Trayvon Martin died, I started to really deal with this concept of like unequal within our same community. Me being at Morehouse College, seeing a community beyond those walls, I knew those kids might never ever know what lies on the other side of this campus. Yeah. Not simply because of the hand that life had dealt them.
Did you feel a sense of privilege?
Absolutely. Probably for the first time in my life.
Wasn't that interesting?
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I had any. I knew rich kids. I went to school with rich children.
Wait, so you're saying you felt privileged because you were on that campus or because you were on that side? Like, what do you mean by that?
I felt privileged because I was able to see one of my dreams come true.
Which was?
To attend college and then to attend Morehouse, a private school. Because
that's like the Black Ivy League.
Yes, I had parents and grandparents who were willing to sign off their lives to make sure that I was able to get my degree.
Man, that's
I
beautiful.
had people who pushed me to make sure that I was academically capable to withstand 4 years of college. All of those things are rooted in privilege. I know this many parents who don't want the best for their kids. If that's true, then there should be a lot more kids with higher success, right? It's not that there's no want. Right. It's not that poor Black kids don't want to succeed or that their families don't want the best for them. It's about access, opportunity. What doors are open for people who look like us? And for the people who are standing in the door, holding onto the handle, who you letting in? Right. I ain't even got past college yet. Okay.
Right.
That's okay.
So I go to Morehouse. I did my teaching stint. Social impact needle goes off, right? Like I was killing it as a teacher, by the way. I had the highest scores in the district for 2 years because my kids had no sort of understanding of where they were as it compared to other second graders across the country.
Yeah.
We started doing data talks every morning, right?
Yeah.
Here's where I find you. Here's where you need to be by October. Here's where you need to be by March. We were blowing it out of the water. I thought that if I could teach for the rest of my life, if I could do this every year for another batch of 25, somebody's going to shake a needle. One of these people going to be president. Somebody, we were on to something. We were higher than the North End schools that I was just describing, killing it. Left there, teachers will understand me here. I was going home feeling like Superman at night, but I was eating ramen noodles for dinner.
Absolutely.
Right? I was packing
I did it for 9 years, so I absolutely understand.
It's such an intrinsic reward, but my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, teachers do not get paid enough.
You got to live life.
I mean, and it's so much more though, too. Like intrinsically, you felt motivated, absolutely. But I think there's also like the mental toll it takes on you, the emotional toll, like the financial, the physical, right? Because like the emotional and mental stuff then becomes physical at some point in time. So I understand you on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Deeply.
And it never, the needle never wavers. You never, once you impact a kid, there's no real turning back.
That's right.
I found myself in the corporate world after that. I was an executive consultant at a company called World 50 for almost 5 years after that. And what World 50 did was they turned up my exposure meter, right? Like I went from working on the west side of Atlanta with my people, with my kids, that's what I wanted to do, to this whole new world of corporate America. And suddenly I'm in rooms with CEOs, Jim Collins, like
all the people that talk
Thomas Friedman,
to write the books or talk the stuff that people that got money want to put into.
the people who important people want to listen to were suddenly my clients.
Yeah.
Were you the only black?
Sky Blue?
You know what's funny? People, the reason we love this show, right? Me and Tatiana, I know we always thinking devious stuff to be asking questions, but we know it's an oddity to get in certain spaces where you're the only black and brown person. We know it because most of the people we engage with that have been successful, they be like, yo, I was the only one in that room.
But don't you always say, and even Barack Obama has said this too, like once you get in that space, you think like these are like the smartest people in the room, like you know, whatever. You get in that space and you're like looking around and you're like,
I'm just smart as these people too. Or they don't know. I don't know.
How did I think I didn't belong here?
And I think to your point, like it goes so much further than just like the race aspect. You know, the intellect that's in the room is not any higher than what you have.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that if we feel that way entering the space, you can imagine the preconceived notions that the people in the room have when you come to sit down.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm gonna say this because I got friends, black, white, all that stuff, right? And some of my white friends, when I was in those space, moms, they'd be like, yo, Sito, you should be here. Don't even worry about all this. You know, like I can see, they would say it like, I can see, they need more people, right? So, but it's not just a race thing. It's more of a bringing different perspectives, right? Right. So whether that's gender, male or female, whether that's socioeconomics, rich or poor, whether that's race, black, white, Latino, whatever, Asian, it's you bring different perspectives because it makes your argument better, I think.
Yeah.
And number two, I think it gives you a different lens on how to actually solve a problem. Because if you only solve a problem for one group of people or one gender or one whatever, what happens to the rest of the world, right? There's 355 million plus people in America,
well,
diverse.
I think that's what happens to our kids too. Like they only have the lens.
I thought we were going there.
That's what happens to our kids when they don't have access to resources and are able to see that there's like a world that exists outside of this little 5-digit zip code that it's just what the hands they were dealt at the time. When you stepped out of that community, that was also when you were like, this is what's out there. And like, if I can do this, I know that there's so much more, that can be done for our kids too.
We said this on the way here. You can't be what you can't see.
You can't be what you can't see.
I did not know that world existed.
Yes, until you walked into that room.
Absolutely.
Right.
And immediately I'm like, bring all of my kids. You know what I mean? How do I get them into this? Anyway, that experience, one, it helped codify what I knew was true of the world, but suddenly I had exposure to it. I was 23, 24, sitting in rooms that people spend their careers trying. The people that were in the room receiving the development spent tens of thousands of dollars to sit in it. Here I am doing it for like a lower wage salary job. it was like getting an MBA for free.
Yeah,
That's how often we were having
That's
these
the best
discussions.
learning.
Oh my
listen to people in their experience.
But it's like experiential learning, right?
Absolutely,
Like hands-on,
And the person you are sitting next to is the CHRO of Chevron.
Yeah.
And on the left of you is the CHRO of Starbucks.
Yeah.
And these are the people whose brains you get to pick for the next 2 days.
That's a beautiful thing.
I
man.
was like a sponge.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But I never stopped thinking about my kids and what they need and what's happening in education. That TFA bug, it lives within you forever.
Yeah.
And so I was itching, right? I'm really in the business of making rich people a little wealthier. And so my impact lever started jumping again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to get back into this. That's how Leading Now comes into the picture. I thought the job description sort of landed in my lap, but I thought it was the perfect opportunity to share the things that I know to be true of organizational leadership as heard from the most prolific organizational thinkers in the world.
Yeah.
Translate that to a world I know and love, which is education.
Yeah.
And give that to the leaders.
Tell everybody in the audience what, describe again the Leading Now organization, what that is, what they do, those types of things.
Yeah.
Because when I hear that, like I hear like sense of urgency. It's like, we ain't got time. We got to make things happen now.
Yeah. We were born out of a sense of urgency.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. We're a little over 3 years old now, born out of this CRT discussion. It's really loud on either side politically, right? Our co-founders, Maura and Caitlin, shout out to you guys. Our co-founders were getting the inkling.
And we're going to have them one day on the show.
Oh, good.
Maura and
there
Caitlin.
is a conversation to be had.
Invites
there.
coming.
Yeah.
Invites coming.
They were getting the inkling that, hey, the people that this conversation is going to impact the most, CRT, whatever it is, students and system leaders, they're not really talking about it at all.
Yeah.
And so system leaders.
And I'm going to say this, which might be controversial. They are some progressive white sisters.
They really are.
Unapologetic, yo. I love it.
That's what we need. We need a lot more of that.
Yes, it is inauthentic and it's in the world the way it should be. It is not codifying you as a person of color. They will say the same thing in front of a fellow white person. They will say it in front of anyone else. Caitlin is a fierce
they about
protector.
the kids, yo. I love it. They about the kids, yo. All day.
But you know what? Let's talk about the fact that there's not enough people that are doing that work, that are existing boldly for what is right.
Yes.
And calling out the things that need to be called out.
Yes, and unapologetically, right? Because that costs people something, right?
Absolutely.
There's social capital associated with that.
Well, you work with superintendents, so that for some of them, that costs them their jobs when you do things like that.
Yes.
Well, let's dive in. Let's have some data.
Get back to Leading Now.
Go ahead.
We after that discussion, they bring together this inaugural cohort, superintendents, 22 of them from around the country. 15-week program that they were designing to do the CRT thing. Let's troubleshoot these pain points. 15 weeks go by and the superintendents are like, where are you going? We've done this.
We want to keep you.
Yeah, give it 2 months. Something else will be on this desk that I'm going to need this group support for.
Do you mean 2 weeks? Not 2 months. Okay, just making sure.
We started to get the inkling that there was a desire for sustainability here.
2 months, that's a long time.
Right. In this world.
Right.
So that was the birth of it. We started to get the inkling that there was the desire for some sustainability. 3 years later, 240 members strong across 40 states. And our goal is to support superintendents as they exist as public officials. We know that being a politician is half of, if not more, of the game of being a successful superintendent.
Yeah.
We also know that the longer a superintendent is seated, the more successful students and the better off the district is.
Yeah, that's
and so our goal is to keep superintendents seated for longer. We do that through the vehicle of strategic communications to help them endure longer as public officials. So less about here's a new idea to try, more about here's how you implement the idea. Here are the people you need on your side. Here's a strategy for convincing your naysayers, right? Because what really needs to happen is a lot of people need to like you. Because what's going to happen is the rubber's going to hit the road. You have to make hard decisions for children as superintendent. You need people to believe in you when you make those decisions.
That's right.
That trust is built over time via social capital, and we have strategies to
assist them with building that social capital.
So just to crystallize for the audience, a superintendent, you may or may not know, is a CEO of a school system, right? They are the ones that work with the board members and then kind of help support teachers, principals, everybody in the classroom, because most people, they only know their school and the principal, right? But they don't know there's people above them that do that. Yes. So I just want to crystallize that. But let's get on some numbers, all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so me and Tatiana, we got to do our homework.
Okay.
Always homework.
Throw it at me.
All right, so I'm gonna read this out because it was some data that we looked at, and we said, all right, let's get some hard numbers to paint a picture of the pressure superintendents face, right? So in 2024, the RAND Corporation survey found that for superintendents in large school districts, you got districts that are way above 10, 20, 30,000 kids, right? These large districts, the institution of political issues and opinions into schooling was their most common source of stress, right? So that's a huge shift from even a few years ago. So could you speak to what this statistic means in practice for an actual school leader?
Institution of political issues and opinions into schooling.
Opinions, and everybody
I wrote
got
that question. Hold on. It was research-based. It was specific. Let me see. All right, let me try to answer. My reaction to that is, yes, it's everywhere. 2, the goal is distraction from the main thing, right? So superintendents.
What would you say the main thing is then? What are we distracting from?
I like to call it operational neglect. The superintendent's job is to keep this train not only running smoothly, but faster. You know what I mean? Like we have growth targets and we need to get there quickly because we're already behind. The things that are in place or being moved to the front of agendas, book bans, removal of certain words that describe inclusion, gag orders for some leaders that they literally cannot speak. The Bible is back in school buildings. We have
states that are implementing the 10 Commandments and putting them back into schools, which I think is interesting.
Tell me, Tatiana, on which assessment one of the commandments will surface?
It's a good question. I'm still waiting to find out myself.
I was just checking, make sure. I know y'all know more than I do. I'm just making sure I'm not missing
We'll see.
Okay, yes, but it's distracting from the main thing. The superintendent.
And the main thing is?
Student achievement.
So kids learn.
All student achievement. Anything standing in the way of that is an impediment.
Well, we're clear that, everybody doesn't care about all. I mean, we've heard that multiple times in interviews and everything like that.
Sad?
I mean, it's a reality of America. I mean, unfortunately, I have learned over time, as much as I've wanted to make everybody's boat rise, right, and have options and access, there are people that believe that you should be in this box, you should be in this box, you should be in this box, and this is the type of life you should have, right? And I tell folks, people need to have a choice of what life they want to be in, right? And so if you don't have the access to do that, and you don't have the same knowledge base as everybody else, how are you going to have that opportunity to make that choice, right? And I think the challenge to me is I learned it's by design. They want certain people in certain boxes, right? And it's the untruth or the little secret that nobody wants to say, right? So, Well,
and I think we still live in a world that there is a lack of clarity between equity and equality. There is a huge difference between the two. And there is a truth behind if you come from a certain community or certain demographic, to you, as long as everybody gets to go to school. Well, everybody gets books. That to you is sufficient. You think that's fine.
Right.
But you are lacking the understanding behind equity and what that really means versus just having equal. Oh, well, kids can all join a sports team if they wanted to, or they can. Well, no, that's not true. So I think that's the unfortunate reality that we exist in, the disparities have just continued to grow.
Yes.
And grow.
And grow. And if someone's listening to this and needs a visual for how we separate equity from equality, equality is giving everybody the same thing. We're on this track. We're about to run a meet. Everybody's starting right here on this line.
Have you seen the little step stool one? I love the step stool visual.
Yes, a visual y'all can see on Google.
So everybody gets the same size step stool.
We're starting at the same point.
And whether or not you can see over the fence or not doesn't really matter.
Right.
Okay,
let's go with that analogy.
I'd be the gal that wouldn't be able to see because, homegirl is tiny.
So if you're trying to see over fence, everybody gets the same size stool. Right. No matter what your height is, you get the same size stool.
But that's because you're in a place where people believe in competition and all that stuff. I mean, here's what nobody wants to say, right? America's belief of competition and capitalism and all that, right, even though it helps to thrive in different ways, is also based on a lot of hating and jealousy.
Well, and it just
Right?
doesn't
Like,
fit. It doesn't fit into
you know
the
what I'm
space
saying?
of education.
That's
That's
correct.
The hard
Like,
part.
so we in education, we're in this space of like, hey, everybody should have an opportunity. But the reality is people be like, no, some people want to say, I'm up here and you down here. I mean, that's what nobody wants to say out loud, right?
Yes.
Right? And you watch those dynamics and play out in a lot of part of the fabric of the culture of the country.
But let's go with what Tatiana just shared. It's like, yes, fine. Capitalism, free markets, I don't know, whatever you want to call the adult business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why that has to sneak into the backstop of our democracy, which is public education. I don't understand how...
Me getting a higher step stool because I need to be able to see, just like you. Why is that an issue?
You know why? Systematic oppression. If I stop them down here, there's no way in the world that they're going to get up there. Make sure my kid can read because they need to be successful because they look a certain way.
But
they shouldn't be able to.
But most people would push to say it's really a class approach, right? Like what I notice now in America with so much of the battle of issues that go on is this low tolerance and really hateful disparity between people who have and people who don't have, right? So I've watched like people who have a lot of stuff, there's this big hate that they got towards the people that don't have are just bringing us down. You watch this dynamic and people understand like when you're in the space where you don't have the resource, you don't have the access, you don't have whatever, you are starting from behind. That's why I always say like kids start from behind the day they start school if they don't have parents reading to them. Kids start behind the day they start school if they don't have parents having a conversation with them or they just, I told folks it is not quantum physics.
Yes. The reading brain is a real thing.
Yeah.
Kids start language in the womb.
Yeah.
Or even like, you talk about like, moms who like listen to like classical music or like have their baby do all the, the like Beethoven's.
Reading the manuals, the children with au pair nannies that are speaking Spanish to them.
Yes.
It all adds up.
So Tatiana, when I was connected, I mean, you were talking about some burnout stuff. You want to bring that up?
Yeah, let's, so here's another research study for you.
I love it.
Okay. The University of Tennessee showed that superintendent turnover due to stress, increased by nearly 3 percentage points from 2021 to 2023. Okay, so not that old, about, 4 or 5 years ago to about 2-3 years ago, with over 1 in 3 states seeing a turnover rate above 20%. What does this high rate of turnover mean for students, teachers, and communities? And you alluded to this a little bit earlier with the importance of continuity in that role, because the turnover, I can only imagine, right? You work with superintendents. One superintendent has one vision, and then 2 years later, someone else comes in and has a different vision, and then we haven't even gotten to talk about boards and how that also impacts the whole vision and strategy. So what does that high rate of turnover mean for, the individuals that are receiving that from students to teachers to the community?
Yep. So there is superintendent turnover and then there's board turnover. I think we can address both. Let's start with the superintendent turnover. The number is higher now. Anissa's going to get me for this, but I believe the number is 61% turnover. We have a graphic that shows.
And is this among the 230-ish that you support, or is this across like the country that you have that number for?
We are managing to buck the national trend. Our superintendents are staying seated for longer.
I know. That's so I was like, I want to clarify that yours are doing a little bit differently.
Very proud of that. Something is sticking. They are enduring longer in the role. That 60% or so is turnover and crossover. So if you imagine a map, if there are 13,000 superintendent jobs in the country, these people, their qualification is still there. So these leaders are just flinging themselves around the country.
Like we saw the one from Miami, like the superintendent from Miami going over to LA.
Yes. What that means is fine for the leader, right? Leaders recover. You all are incredibly intelligent. You have a pedigree of education. You will land again. What that means for districts is that there's a cost to contention.
Right.
Somewhere in the tune of $2.5 billion is costing. This is not district cost. This is not what it's costing to run a school district. This is the cost of attorney's fees, buyout packages, legal situations. The cost of removing a superintendent from seat. So that's the dollar sign, right? That's how much it's costing us to pay a superintendent to leave, to, make sure that they have their compensation packages, pay their attorney fees. If you get sued, you pay the superintendent a settlement, that contention. The other piece that you were hinting at, Tatiana, is kids are missing stuff, right? If I got a new 3-year plan every year, I'm never getting anything done.
That's right.
I'm sort of being guinea pigged
Yes.
as people try to figure things out. And I say something like that and it sounds like a blanket statement, but go talk to any superintendent who's been seated for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. They will tell you we're starting to see things shake, right? Like the things we wrote down are coming to fruition. We are not where we're supposed to be, but we're a long way from where we started.
You got consistency.
Yeah.
Serious data behind the superintendent being seated and given time to enact a plan.
Okay, I'm gonna see if you can answer this for me, or just give me a range. Okay,
right.
So among the 230 superintendents that your organization gets to work with, what is the longest standing superintendent that you currently have?
My longest seated superintendent. We have a group of superintendents who are over 10 years in the role.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
And could you get now? I'm asking you numbers. Right. Okay, let's see if you know this. So. Give me a percentage. How many of those of your is that like 10% of your 230, 20% of your 230?
Under 10%.
Under 10%.
Under 10% of leaders who have been there for 10 plus years.
Now, give me a range 5 to 10. 5 to 10 years. How many of them would you say are 5 to 10?
4 to 10. I'd say that makes up.
4 to 10?
4 to 10.
Okay.
I'd say that makes up maybe, what number did I give you? 10%. I'd say that's probably 70%.
Wow. Wow.
Now, this could do with my recruiting strategy, right? Like the inkling is we need to go find superintendents who are on fire.
Yeah.
Right? Like who are probably living this work, and a lot of those people
and doing the right thing.
Okay.
Right.
On fire.
Yeah.
Okay. On fire being not like the house is burning down type.
Right.
Okay.
No. But like you've been in seat long enough where you've probably seen the board turn over once or twice.
Yeah.
Where you've probably rubbed up against a little bit of contention.
You got a little backbone.
Where you see the need for this kind of
and you got some skin in the game type of thing. Got it.
So let's push on the larger districts, right? So I'm going to give you some numbers. So the Council of Great City Schools
This is so good.
is where you have the largest school districts in the United States, probably the 70 plus districts that are largest in the country, right? So the Council of Great City Schools said that the average length of tenure for Black and Brown superintendents is significantly shorter than their white counterparts, right? And when you talk about Black and Brown, tell me anybody that's not white, right?
Right.
And so how does the Leading Now organization address these systemic and equity-based challenges to ensure that leaders of color are supported in an environment that may be even more contentious for them? And I'm gonna just also throw women in that, right? Regardless of what color.
I was going there immediately.
Regardless of what color they are, right? Because I tell folks, you got Black, Latino, or Black and Brown, or any other color but white males, right? And then you have women in general, no matter what color they are that are in these spaces, right? So do you guys say, hey, we got to have like a different approach to have these conversations?
Right, like is there a different strategy?
Yeah, because, we're all clear. I could probably make the argument that depending on what category or group that you're in, you're facing a different set of experiences and also facing a different set of deficits or beliefs about you and your capability, right? That probably matches up what happens in corporate America or anything else.
Yep. Those intersections are crucial to who and how you are observed and what people think of your leadership. Now I'm just going to run it. You're going to have to tell me what parts I answer and what parts I don't.
you guys got your people surviving. So
first I want to give you some context.
Okay.
A big part of my job is recruiting superintendents into our national cohorts.
Okay.
I'll tell you the demographic who never has a problem saying yes to the dates and booking that flight. Actually, I'll let you guess.
Women.
No.
Minorities.
White men.
White.
Oh, interesting.
White men. They are always the first to commit. They are always the first to book. Because
pressure, they don't have the pressure.
They know that they can get up and leave their seat and that the community and stakeholders will trust that things are going well and that is not a dig to any of my white male members. They are fantastic leaders, largely speaking.
But if you're a minority, whatever, they think you up to something.
Yes, and so the hardest people to recruit, our cohorts are free, by the way.
They're not even paying for it. It's just them coming.
Optics, right? I can't leave.
That's
they
crazy.
won't like the way this looks.
That's crazy.
White women, number 2.
Wait, so let me just say something.
Okay.
I'm going to say something that you're not saying.
All right.
pretty much the same way the world says if you're a white male, you got access and privilege, you're saying you got access and privilege in these other spaces.
It's across all fields, Sito.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen,
Yes,
and I'm not saying this to be, but we talk about unlearning unlimited, right? The truth is the truth. Like,
Yes.
America accept it for what it is.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yes. And I've said this to my white male members, and they have sort of nodded along with me to... I did not feel this way. I knew that I could come to this. And I could completely understand how Michelle or Cindy is not afforded the same opportunity.
Yeah.
They are skeptical of her because she's a woman, or because she's black, or because he is Latinx.
Man,
and
that is
as
so unfortunate.
minority groups, we have a hyper focus on that to say, "Oh, I'm not moving."
But you want to hear something? I'm gonna bring this up. I know we're gonna get in trouble on this show. I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna sound bad, but it's the reality. What I hate the most, right? When I got all the education, I was fortunate in all these spaces. Everybody said, "Well, you're a black male, so you got to work harder. You got to do 10 times more. You got to do this." And I watched my counterparts that didn't have to do that. Didn't have to write better. Didn't have to do all that. It was like you had to be able to walk on water as Jesus, which is impossible to do every single day of your life, right? And then get judged in every little move you make, right?
Yeah.
And then you watch your counterparts don't do 3/4 of that, and everybody understands.
Well, I mean, and that goes exactly to the point that you just made about how easy it is for them to walk away for a day.
And I'm not saying it like from and it's not a racial thing. I got friends who are colleagues of mine that are other persuasion. They said, "Yo, that's just the way America is." Why does America gotta be like that?
The thing about privilege is you can't really control how it affects you.
Like, why do we gotta treat women differently? Why do we gotta treat minorities differently? Like, yo, it ain't my fault that I grew up in a community and neighborhood where we had all minorities and like I had to go engage out of my own neighborhood.
I mean, not even your community. It's just how you were born.
Yeah, I mean, like we gotta come together more as a people and and be more humanistic in our approach.
Here's my solution orientation. 2-pronged. One, you got to remind me, Tatiana. One is for what I tell my members. The second is how we. Actually, I forgot it already. Dang it. Okay. It'll come back
how
to
you
me.
tell your members.
Yes,
Let's start there.
We can start
and
there.
it'll probably come back to you.
Okay. Yes. How we tell how I advise my members to deal with. Oh, I remember. The second piece is about me. Okay. How I show up in the spaces. My members, my white male superintendent members that I just got done talking about.
Yeah.
These are my folks. You know what I mean? Like we understand each other. And they ask me, how can I be helpful? How can I?
Yeah, like how do you use them to then create more access for the people that then feel like it's harder for them to?
And remember we talked about Caitlin and Maura? Mm-hmm. That's how I describe their advocacy. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be fiercely protective to assert your influence in a space. Mm-hmm. It's the next time you're at a golf outing or the next time you're grabbing brewskis with your fellow superintendent guys and you hear something a little off and it's sort of rooted in someone's gender or rooted in someone's race, you don't need to stand up and, read a Marcus Garvey chapter, but I think that there are things that we can do as little wink, wink, nudges. Everything doesn't have to be a full-on housewives fight, but there are ways to let people know your thinking is off. Mm-hmm. You are outnumbered in this situation. You should really revisit the way that you're processing things. And I think that because I see it happen all the time.
So let me say what I think I hear you saying, right? I think you're saying, which I would agree if this is the position you're saying, is that we should be able to have more constructive conversations around whether we agree or disagree things to kind of challenge each other to talk about what's the right thing to do.
I would call them like having those courageous conversations.
Yeah, because like to me, what I find is we're in a world that people are more tribal. That's probably the word.
Okay, yeah, we are talking about
I believe what I believe in, you believe what you believe in, and it could be broken up into whatever categories, gender, race, whatever it is, right? And what you find is people move more, in my perspective, based on interests and access that they have. If you are in a space where you each have an equal set of access, everybody's fine. You have an equal set of interests, everybody's fine. But when those things don't align up, then you begin to have these different set of divides, and then this different set of beliefs around who's better, not better, competition or all these other things. And I think I've watched it even in the education space, right? Where I have seen even leaders that I was like, it don't matter how many years they sat in that seat, where they should be doing what's right. And you find out that they're just as behind closed doors, fearful, nervous, and all that.
But what I think you're saying is that you're pushing them to change that narrative.
Integrity, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
When no one's watching you, when you are in the rooms that are private, where you can kind of say whatever you want to say, how are you showing up for the people that you felt so impassioned about? That you would come to me and ask how we change. Those are the moments when no one's watching, where you have the power to dismantle systematic situations, oppressions, if you will. It's
because your influence is big.
Yes. I tell my white friends all the time, don't tell me about how you love me, how much you support me, and how you would never want to see me in a bad situation. Tell your grandfather at Thanksgiving dinner when he says something out of the side of his face. Hold those people accountable, right? That's how the change occurs, so that you are not producing more people with prejudice in your lineage, right? It has to stop somewhere. Remember we used to think that people just had to die? A generation had to die off and we would eradicate racism? Why hasn't that happened?
I tell all the folks, I don't care. I tell my black folks, start off by being positive. I tell my Hispanic folks, push it. Being bilingual is okay. You know what I'm saying?
That's where I want to go. It's like,
I tell the females, be strong. Like don't be apologetic out in these streets. Like you got an education like everybody else.
That was exactly my second point, Sito. It's up to us. And I'm going to include you all in this bucket of people with privilege and access in the world to make sure that when we do things like this, when we enter any given room, shake any given hand, I'll speak for myself here, but like my goal is always after an interaction, I'm approaching this assuming that you've never met a big, dark-skinned, gay, black guy before. So my goal is always after this interaction, whatever you felt before you met me is now removed.
Yeah.
And that another tall, black, gay guy will be able to approach you the same way.
Without you being offended.
Or nervous.
Or just have an overall prejudice
Good luck
about
with that.
it. Yeah.
In the great America we live in, man.
But you know what? But you know, the reality is, yes, I hear you, like good luck with that. But I think that is the only way for us to possibly change some mindsets and mentality.
Absolutely.
Because we can talk about it all we want to, but it is how you have to tackle it head on. Like
I agree.
That is the only way.
But people's biases are deep-seated, man.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, but I think that's also what Malik is saying when it's like, it's not just, it's your integrity that when you are at a kitchen table with someone in your family that has some deep-rooted prejudice and potentially some racist behaviors that you do say, more than, because I hate this line. Well, I got black friends. What? That you do have those uncomfortable conversations about, but like I noticed that like when someone that was of another race was approaching the car, you locked the doors. Like, why did you do that? Like, those are the conversations that you have to have head on and not just talk about it or just be like, well, no, I'm not racist or not biased. I got black friends. Like, no.
You know what they love? Bye, Felicia. You know how many times I've had that conversation?
Oh my gosh.
But the reality is people are at least from what I have seen, are very fearful to have any type of conversation that deals in those spaces, right? And so there's always this notion of trying to create a safe space that people can say what they want to say without being bashed over the head, right? And I'll say this, like I could believe that if you don't know something, it's okay to say, hey, I'm going to ask this question. It's going to sound ignorant, right? Or it may sound out of the norm. I just don't know, but I want to be able to have that conversation, right? And I think like we got to get into a space where we can have constructive conversations like that so we can navigate to a solution, right? I think what is not good is that we get caught up into the polarized side and we can't cross that space, right? So, Tatiana, I remember you were talking about this whole thing with Gallup, right? So
yes, let's go back for a second.
People?
Yeah. Oh, the Strength Finders.
That is,
oh my gosh.
Strength Finder people.
People don't know enough about that book. Strength Finders. You should check it out. Do the assessment. It is top tier. Okay. It is.
Follow you for the rest of your career.
We might. You might want to sponsor us.
Yeah.
Some love.
I actually did that at my previous nonprofit that I was working at, and it was one of the most beautiful, insightful things about like my really personal, what I thought like I was good at, but what I actually, is good at. So, okay, so. last little information here from some statistics that are very interesting. The Gallup poll found that while 70% of parents were satisfied with their own child's education, okay, only 43% of Americans were satisfied with K-12 education nationally. Okay, there's obviously a stark difference there, and interesting about what the potential disconnect could be. How does Leading Now help superintendents bridge the gap between local satisfaction and national perception?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, this is where I thrive. Because, all right, let me take you back to when you read the statistic as if it was dismal. I think you said 71% of parents are pleased with their kids' education.
70%, yes.
70%.
They're pleased with their own child's education, but only 43% of Americans were satisfied with K-12 education nationally.
Yes. Okay. Now, it is important for that 43% to have some understanding and probably increase that score a bit. The reality is those people don't have children in school. They're paying taxes into the system. That 43% are people without children in these school buildings. So I hear that 70% and I'm getting thumbs up for my superintendents, right? Like we may not like where public education is
as a whole in totality.
But what I heard from that is you're killing it. The parents are pleased with the way things are going for their children.
So they're pleased in the local context.
Yes, focus on what you can control.
Which is your local context.
Local context. National sentiment. Local context is where the change really happens. And so what I heard from that is superintendents are doing well, right? Like there is work happening at the local level where parents feel safe, that their kids are being enriched and prepared. And that 43% to me, it represents a knowledge gap, right? Like we want to bring those folks into the fold. To your point, Sito, like how do we make sure that the entire community is aware of changes that could impact kids, whether you're a parent or not? There's more than one way to be a biological parent. I want to see that number grow, but it also signals to me that our superintendents are controlling what they can control, which is what is happening at the local level.
Now, I'm going to push back on you about this a little bit, because what I also have found during my tenure as a school administrator, during my time working at a nonprofit, in communities that are predominantly under-resourced, the school makeup is predominantly Black and brown students. When it comes to taking surveys, most of the families don't complete them. So now my pushback is that 70%, who's taking that survey? Is it the families that are really pleased because they are literate, very pleased because they're coming from schools that have all the resources, that, their demographics look a particular way. So and Sito and I have talked about this numerous times about, we go back to like this conversation about equity and equality. It's like, I think, well, my kid is doing great in school. Like my school is great.
Yeah, who took the survey?
But then the school down the street, that's literally maybe a mile down the road where the demographics are completely different. Those students are struggling. They're struggling to have teachers fill vacancies, and all those things. So I wonder, when we look at, a statistic like that, is like, who's taking that survey? I agree with you. It's like superintendents.
What are the questions?
What are the questions? Access to the survey itself, like all those things. But I do agree with you in the sense that like superintendents have to focus on what's within their locus of control, right? But then my pushback would be like, okay, 70% say that they're satisfied. Who took those surveys? Like, did it predominantly come from a specific community? How are we going to get those communities that didn't take the survey? How do we get feedback from them? So I just, I wonder about those things,
And I'm going to add something that we give superintendents more power and authority than we think. Because for a superintendent, depending on their governance model, if they have a board, they can think whatever they want, but they got to get majority of that board to approve for them to do something. And if majority of that board does not approve, whether they agree with it or not, right? Book needs to be here, book doesn't need to be there, whatever, right? They can't get it done. But the world blames them, right? And
Community sentiment is,
I remember a board member saying, we just need the superintendent to block what we want to do. I heard a board member say that one time. And even though it was about something that was supposed to be good for the community, right? And now the superintendent got to make sure that the board members doing okay, doesn't want to put them in a political, the governance model is so flawed, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's board run or mayor run, right? You gotta, so these politics you're navigating because in the governance model, those folks are political, right? And so there's this tap dance you have to do. But what is always clear is the person that gets beat up, the him or her, is always who? The superintendent, right?
Yeah.
That's so I bring all that up to say is like most people in the community don't understand that, right? So a question I wanted to pivot to, right? Because I want to get to this unlimited place, right? Some solutions, right? Is we talk about things around innovation, compassion, and political savviness that superintendents have to have, right? And you guys have been successful in helping the people part of your network to navigate that, right? What has been some concrete, if you had to mention 3 things that we shared with them around these areas to help them, A, survive, and B, lead the right way, what would that be? Just 1 or 2 or 3 things.
What would I share? First, leadingnow.org. There are several resources available that were developed to help this specific issue. And the ones that we found most useful, we've gone ahead and made them free because that's how urgent we feel this work is. To answer your question, what are 2, maybe 3 things that I might share? Next steps, do this tomorrow, become a more strategic communicator. Spend time understanding your stakeholder group.
And outline who do you mean by that?
Yeah. So you got students, school board, parents, PTA. You have community officials, right? The people that help the flywheel of the superintendent turn.
Yeah.
Identify those folks. I'm specifically speaking. If you're a new superintendent, here's the proactive opportunity. If you are a seated superintendent, sometimes it's a bit retroactive, but you need to write all of these groups of people out. And then you need to figure out what's the state of that relationship today? A map, a physical stakeholder map. What's the state of this relationship today? And then what practices can I put in place to make sure that this relationship is strengthened over the years? What are their pain points today? How can I help solve those, whether it's in my locus of control or not? What do they want to hear from me? The idea here is talking so that people listen, right? Facts are not going to change anybody's mind. What's going to change their mind is when you start talking about things that they are interested in hearing. And so how do I meet you where you are? So that's the first thing I'd recommend, identifying your stakeholder groups and putting a communications plan in place for those folks. If I were to offer something else, it would probably be stop emailing.
Oh, hold on now.
Okay. Email.
Whoa.
Stop emailing. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Okay, all right. Well, I'll caveat, take that soundbite, but I'll caveat it to like stop emailing so much. 80% of communication is nonverbal, right? And so email is an information superhighway. It's good for getting things done quickly, quick read. But if you're attempting to convey emotion, if you're attempting to have a point of view, it can be difficult to perceive via words. If I say, I'm picking up the phone and I say, hello, or I say, hello, same word, 2 very different interpretations.
Connotations.
Read exactly the same on Gmail.
I would push in an example would be even this may be a controversial example, but it's a little comical. Tatiana, don't even give me that look, but I'm going to say it.
Oh boy.
If you have a bad relationship with somebody and they mad at you or they don't agree and they feel a certain way and your communication is not going really well with them, and by you just sending an email, they will begin, whatever their disposition is, they will interpret.
Right. It's almost like they're parsing out or
they're looking for the problem. Right.
He's being mean.
You say hello. Oh. It couldn't,
don't you just love the dot, dot, dot? The dot, dot, dot. Like,
right, you start picking up pieces of grammar, interpreting it as shade.
And it becomes this whole like human interconnection thing, right? And it's how I feel today or don't feel today, right? And I mean, you learn so much, I think, when you're managing and working with people around human behavior and emotions. It's crazy. I mean, but it's also the same if you were going to have a dating relationship or I talk about like regular practical life stuff is no different.
When me and my fiance are having discourse.
Yes.
If it takes more than 2 text messages to get clear, I should probably call you.
Yeah, right.
before we burn this house down. You know what I mean?
But isn't that
same
the
advice
same?
to superintendent.
Yes.
2 emails is too much. Pick up the phone and let's clear it up. Because what you're getting there, a tone of voice, right? So now I understand your intention. And I can say things. I can insert filler words. You can hear a smile in my voice. It's a better indication of what the conditions that we need to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Well, I remember as like when I was an assistant principal, I would always tell my teachers, which they absolutely hated me for this, but I would say, do not send a remind message, a dojo message, an email about behavior. Don't. Because, and I know that was very like, well, I don't have time. And I'm like, because people read into things.
Yeah.
And sometimes as you're typing them yourself, you're going off.
Right. You're emotionally charged.
And you're emotionally charged. So like sometimes it's just better, hey, pick up the phone and try to have a conversation that way versus trying to explain it via email. And then you're taking 30 minutes to send the email because you're emotionally charged or you don't know how to say this one thing or whatever. Just sometimes pick up the phone and we may settle it far more easily than it is going back and forth via email. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the work that you're doing with superintendents. I'm very curious to hear this. What is one thing that you guys have in your work with Leading Now have seen that you've had to kind of push your superintendents to unlearn a bit? Especially like, I mean, we are in a highly politically charged.
Everybody comes with the flaws.
And, everybody comes with, what a superintendent in Louisiana is experiencing may be similar to what a superintendent in California or such and such and such and such.
Yeah.
But,
or Florida,
but I'm sure they've had to unlearn some things as you guys have worked as a collective. And maybe you're just thinking about one superintendent and you're like, oh, I really had to work on them unlearning that.
Did you say, hey, why don't you just go get some therapy, man?
We have the therapy multiple times a week.
Stay off the alcohol.
The biggest things that I think we've had our superintendents try to unlearn is one, from a communications lens, everything we just talked about, right? Like you need to talk so that people listen. You need to be clear about your body language. Every little piece of that interaction matters to achieve the goal that you want. If you ask someone, or if you tell someone to calm down, that immediately revs them up.
Because
you have assumed that I'm upset. So
you want to tell me what to do,
Right. So unlearning, you're sitting in a board meeting, you think that you are being, interactive because you're taking notes about what people are saying, but the observer is seeing you with your head down while they're talking to you, scribbling. It's the optics. So the first thing is step back and let's really audit how you may be being perceived. That's something that we help them unlearn. And then another thing is that they're in it alone. That the wheel has not been invented. That they are sitting in this ivory tower in the middle of an island by themselves. And I don't blame them for feeling that way. I think if I were a superintendent today, that's exactly how it would feel. I'm trying to do this really righteous thing, something that I'm really passionate about, something that I want to drive forward. And it feels like people are throwing things at me.
All day.
I'm able to dodge most of them. But every now and again, I get hit in the face with a tomato. And not only does it hurt, but it's embarrassing. I have no one to count on for support. And so our job is to make them feel less alone. There are 12,000 other folks with this job. And I bet
they're going through the same.
Or have gone through it. And we need to talk to them. So the idea of community, I find, is really lost on a lot of my members. They feel very lonely. In fact, that tends to be one of the things that they find most benefit. After we do all the strategic comm stuff, they're like, God, I'm just happy to have somebody to talk to. Like, we're going out for drinks next week. I can't do it in the district, but we're going to drive 3 hours.
You guys are like the marriage counselors, the therapists. What's that show on HBO?
But
Couples therapy?
Yes.
Couples therapy.
Well, that one usually is not good.
Oh my God.
They usually land there because things are unwell.
She be working through some stuff, don't she? Oh my goodness.
But I think that is something that we've talked so much about in the landscape of education, but not even outside of that too, as like people grow in industries, right, and become like CEOs or CFOs or whatever. The higher up you get, the more isolated you feel.
That's right.
That top looks great, but then it can be very isolating and very lonely. So the moment that you do find like a community that you can say, hey, we may not have the same exact problem, but we have similar issues. And like, how can I connect with someone that really understands what I'm going through? I can imagine. But that is also a process of unlearning, because getting to these spaces, you feel like you got to fight your way to get there. So then once you're there, you're like, you know what? I'm here. I don't want to fight with nobody no more. Like,
you're not lying either.
You know?
There's a ton of posturing.
That's right.
Be on. Everyone that asks you anything is looking for you to be as polished and buttoned up as you can be.
That's right.
And so maybe I'm giving away a piece of the product here, but we spend a lot of time. In fact, our first day of cohort learning in any Leading Now program is realigning to self, right? Like getting back into those values, doing the work of breaking down those walls that you've put up as a defense mechanism, because if we're not going to tell the truth, we can't solve any challenges here.
Well, and then how do you build a community if your wall is up, right? Like you can't do that.
You're never truly sharing
exactly.
challenges.
Listen. We have run out of time.
I know.
We can go all day, but
I know.
We have to bring him back again.
Wait, can I ask our last question?
All right, one more question.
All right. So we have had you on twice now, which is absolutely amazing. And you being here in person, top tier. Okay. So for like our listeners, like parents, teacher, community member, you know, what's one action that they can take to support school leaders and to really move public education forward? One action may be a really big action, or, you know, but
I got like a low-hanging fruit, and then I have heavier hanging fruit. It's a bit higher up on the tree. Low-hanging fruit, get involved in your local politics. Figure out where your community meetings are taking place, because you do have a representative from your specific community. Is that city council? Yes. Figure out when your school board meets, whether you have children in the district or not. Those are things that you are paying into. Those are the meetings in which you'll hear the plans that are set to take place in the communities.
Just find out who your school board member is for your district. That's a big step too.
Those are where those meetings that are public invitation are typically pretty low attendance, but those are the meetings where they're clicking through the agenda, telling you what's coming, the things that they want to do.
That's right.
Voice. Those are the meetings where you sort of you can impart that. The second way, which is a bit of a higher hanging fruit, is I'm excited to see what comes out of this period of political turmoil that our country is in. Because if you look at periods like the Harlem Renaissance, right? You look at periods of turmoil where great innovation has been born. Look at America after the World War, right? The Industrial Revolution. These times where great duress sent people into overdrive, into making change. And so I hearken that to this situation, because I think, and I hope to see a new pack of political aspiration out of this time. People who understand that, like, in order to see any change on whatever the bench or seat or tower is, you have to get people in it with perspectives that reflect the world that we live in. Yeah. And I think that this time period is going to activate people, right? Like, if you're mad about what's happening in our country, do something about it.
Amen.
You don't have to have a degree. Look at a lot of school boards. You don't have to have a fancy degree to serve as a politician.
We had a whole podcast about that.
I listened.
Not so qualified members that make up school boards nowadays. So
you don't have to have an educational pedigree to be passionate about changing your environment.
That's right.
If you want to get involved, and there are a host of organizations who are hand-holding people to the election line. If you want to run for office, write me. Send me an email. I'm telling you, I was going to run for school board. I had an organization attached to Teach for America who set me up for the run. They had my campaign points ready. They were helping me write my letters. They pulled the data to see how many doors and which doors I need to knock on to secure the vote. They had my photo shoot, my financial analyst. They were walking me to the finish line, because there are people, very rich people in the world, who understand that none of this comes naturally. Right? And if you want to see success, you have to help people get there.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, that was a long way to say I hope to see a new set of, like, political betterment for the sake of this country.
Well,
Love
listen.
that.
Another constructive banger.
Round 2. I'm going to the table and sleep here. I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, listen, we are super excited. Thank you so much, Malik, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you coming live to the studio. If you like our show, please make sure you share, like, and subscribe. We are on Apple, Connect, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You name the gram, we're on the gram.
On the TikToks.
On the TikToks. Yeah, big shout out to everybody out there who continue to support me and Tatiana in this work, and all the folks out there. We really appreciate you guys out there. Continue to make sure you share, like, and subscribe to our show. We really are always trying to make sure we get the truths out, what's really coming out, and also how to become unlearned and unlimited about the real work in education.
Congratulations.
All right, another banger.
Thank you.
Thanks.